The Eastern Pacific hurricane season has begun on tonight's Tropical Weather Bulletin. And now the latest around the wide world of tropics. Tropical Weather Bulletin for May 15th. So we're back with regular tropical weather bulletins. We really haven't been missing much in the last few weeks, and we have a relatively quiet picture active right now. We do have 4 systems that we're looking out for now and in the next few days, all of them at low chances of development though. Let's first take a look at the Atlantic Basin. Of course, we're not quite there yet with the season, but the National Hurricane Center is probably going to be starting regular outlooks. It's looking pretty quiet, but there's a few areas of disturbed weather, it has to be said, mainly over the open ocean. 17 days until hurricane season begins. Well, in the Eastern Pacific, we've got this little system here that we've tagged G5. 10% chance on this as it slowly moves west-northwestwards. Looks quite interesting on satellite, but at the minute it is not likely to develop, and if it did get anywhere, it would be very short-lived and won't affect any land. In the Western Pacific, watching out for a 20% area of interest that hasn't actually generated yet, but it will appear very shortly near Palau, heading towards the Philippine Islands, and will traverse the islands the next few days. Only really the GFS picking up on that one, so we've got those limited chances. North Indian Ocean, rumours on the models as well in the later period of the model runs, but at the minute it's looking relatively quiet. A few storms blowing up over the Bay of Bengal region, and a few little smatterings of rain showers over India. In the Southwest Indian Ocean, it's pretty much a dead basin at this point. Very little going on at all. Cloud off towards the northeastern corner of this sub-basin zone, but no systems active in the Southwest Indian Ocean. As usual, as it has seemed to have been this season, it's all in the Australian region, although in a more light phase right now. 2 systems active, but both at low chance of development. E5 pretty much had its day now near the Solomon Islands, and C5, which is still out there northwest of Christmas Island. Well, let's take the Cocos Keeling Islands, I should say. Well, let's take a look at some satellite imagery right now. Here's a good look at the Eastern Pacific, and looking at that 1 or maybe even 2 systems trying to develop there, but not much going on with them at the moment. And here's a quick look at that Southwest Indian Ocean, getting towards the Southwest Indian Ocean, still in the Australian region technically, and not doing very much either. Here's another look at that one right now as well. Very disorganized cloud structure. You can see in general just a few thunderstorms bobbing about over a very broad area, very broad indeed. Southeastern side, very little going on. It's more towards the west and the northern side. Quite a deep system for what it is, around 1006 millibars, and wind speeds of about 35 miles per hour in places. So that's that one system in the southern Indian Ocean. This is the one in the South Pacific, 94P. The designation, not too far from the Solomon Islands. You can see them off towards the north, but this system's looking pretty appalling at this point, and so I think maybe even that 10% is too kind. So I thought I'd show you quite a lot of what's going on elsewhere around the world today. This is the United States, this big two storm structures going on there, east coast and inland over the Central Plains. Large storms blowing up as of the recording right now. Several severe thunderstorm warnings and flood warnings, flash flood warnings in Virginia, in North Carolina into Virginia. This is the Caribbean region. Again, you can look down to the East Pacific there, but in the Caribbean itself, a few storms here and there, especially over Cuba. They get a lot this time of year. And this is looking out over the Atlantic, more towards the Atlantic there, Lesser Antilles. A little system there, a ghost of a system, trying to get a little bit of circulation going, but obviously too early for that kind of action. There's another view of the Eastern Pacific, wider shot there, true color imagery, and this is now the Western Pacific zone, showing you a few thunderstorms and clouds over the southernmost parts of the Philippines. Look out towards the right hand side, you see a little bit of spin going on there for that next system that we're going to be watching, 20%. Bay of Bengal, North Indian Ocean, this is the look at this view. Lots of storms actually over the spine of central India in the last few hours, but apart from that, all the other storms staying out at sea. Southwest Indian Ocean, as mentioned, quiet. There is some local weather going on near Mauritius at this point, quite a bit of rain actually. And this is the Australian region, the east coast there, getting a few little rain showers as well, but in general quiet across the region, apart from the extremities, east and west, where those invests are. Here's some radar views looking at the US. This may be out of date by the time this update goes out or by the time you see it, but quite a few storms moving up through the mid-Atlantic region. Here's a look at the Caribbean region as well. A few rain showers heading into Puerto Rico and obviously affecting parts of the Lesser Antilles as well, mainly the Windward Islands. This is the Philippines, looking out towards a few storms heading in from the east, from the Pacific. And this is a look at South Korea, really getting raked by some persistent rainfall there from a quite perturbed front moving through from west to east. And this is aforementioned Mauritius and Reunion there, where you can see a few rainstorms occurring mainly offshore and some light showers in general over Mauritius, getting to moderate at times. Sea surface temperatures, Atlantic certainly getting up there in those temperatures now. Loop current into the Gulf as well, looking good, up to 28 degrees Celsius. Caribbean Sea also getting a few spots up to 30 degrees. Eastern Pacific certainly got a big warm pool there right now, up to 32 degrees and a few spots south of Mexico. Moving out towards the open Eastern Pacific, though it's still too early for the waters to be warm there yet. Western Pacific really opening up a large warm pool in the South China Sea, up and above 32 degrees possibly near Palau, and off the eastern side of the Philippines also looking good over the Philippine Sea, a large part of it over 30 degrees Celsius. North Indian Ocean also piping hot, look at that, up to 32 degrees in quite a few spots in the Bay of Bengal and west of India as well into the Arabian Sea. So really warm temperatures across the board there. Well, compared to average, in general, it's slightly to moderately above average over most of the areas that we're tracking. Quite cool in the central part of the Eastern Pacific, where those storms tend to track out the longer-lived ones. But closer to the coast, Mexico and Central America, water temperatures looking good. Western Pacific good pretty much across the board, apart from the southern coast of China. North Indian Ocean also up to 2, maybe 3 degrees above average. Oceanic heat content is certainly a fair bit in the Eastern Pacific by its standards at this time of year. Western Pacific also looking good with quite a bit of energy there off the eastern coast of the central Philippines out towards Guam. So a large area looking good in the Western Pacific. Atlantic, we get to have a look at the Atlantic now as well. Caribbean there getting up to moderate numbers in terms of oceanic heat content. Certainly looking quite decent for the time of year. This will expand over time, but I would say by this point, this very early juncture is looking pretty good. Let's check the computer models then. This is the GFS for the next 5 days. We're looking at this circled area for a potential development, very low chance at this time, but gradual movement towards the west-northwest, staying away from land mainly, weak steering currents by the looks of things, and weak storm in general, not even a storm by definition because it doesn't get to 40-mile-per-hour winds there, so stays depression at best if it even manages that. That is definitely at best. Well, let's take a look elsewhere. Western Pacific also watching out for this potential system. Here it is, sliding in from the southeast, eventually becoming a tropical storm according to GFS, around a pressure of 1000 millibars when it makes landfall there in central Mindanao, then continuing northwestwards, getting itself back together again as it moves through the Visayas region, mainly over Panay and then on towards Mindoro, northwestward movement. But I must caution, the GFS is the only model that has this scenario so far. Other global models have not yet picked up on this development, and so I would be skeptical to say the least. Whether or not it does form, it could produce elevated rainfall amounts, and that will be quite important over this region as we are looking at a few areas of very high rainfall over a concentrated track. Of course, if it does get itself together better than or as good as what the GFS is thinking, potentially up to 300 millimeters of rainfall according to these charts over some areas of eastern Mindanao as well as in the central Visayas region. So certainly looking at potentially high amounts of rain, even on the peripheries there of Palau, or possibly over 200 millimeters. In the longer range, we get to take a look at what happens with that storm as it continues. A small early season storm certainly fits the bill for that. It eventually dies out almost completely by the time it reaches the coast of China, just east of Hong Kong. And then maybe a weak loose circulation there, trying to develop a second system near Mindanao in the Philippine Sea. Weak steering at the beginning, it eventually starts to move off towards the north or northwest towards the end of that 10-day period. Scan the barcode and that will take you through to the Force 13 merch store. You can take a look at all our items on there, as well as our full season and individual animations on request. You can also check out our other outlets on the link there, quite a few depending on where you want to go. Let's check the silly range then, day 10 to 16. Could there be any silliness over this time period? Well, I wouldn't say it's silly, but there is a long-term scenario here from the GFS model showing a mature typhoon off the coast of the Philippines. It doesn't actually strike land, I don't think, but it is moving northwest, at least not striking land in that 16-day period. After that, possibly moving towards land, but of course this is very late on in the model run. For those new to the cyclone tracking business, I would take anything beyond 10 days as pretty fantasy land. That's why we call it silly range. There it is. Well, on this day, it wasn't so silly. It was Typhoon Irma in 1966, which was a pretty powerful storm for this time of year. It was a high-end Category 3 landfall. I think it was on the island of Samar. It may have been a bit further south. I cannot quite recall now, but it did go on to strike the Philippines. Very powerful storm. Was it even stronger than that? Well, there's conflicting evidence on that one. I think the JTWC still alleges that it was a super typhoon, although our estimates place it at only a high-end Category 325 miles per hour. I say only, that is still pretty devastating at times. Well, very little to track today, but I'm sure things will change soon, and things have been quiet for a while now, it has to be said. We've probably produced a record low amount of tropical weather bulletins over this off-season. But anyway, the first storm in the Atlantic is Andrea, Eastern Pacific Alvin, and in the Central Pacific the next name is Iona. In the Western Pacific it will be Wu-Tip, and in the North Indian Ocean the next name is Shakti. Of course, we've not had any Northern Hemisphere storms so far this year, but 25 around the world, all in the Southern Hemisphere. It's been a bumper season here in the Australian region. The next name is Fina. The Southwest Indian Ocean, Lyra, and in the South Pacific it's Ermil. That's it for tonight's Tropical Weather Bulletin. We'll be back again tomorrow night.
Become an ultimate fan today.